Okay, so the next record I think we should talk about, Tim, is one that, again, was on both of our lists. Simply one of the greatest records of all time, and the best Cure record, 17 Seconds. The second Cure record just has a sound to it that, to me, sounds like it's beaming in from some other dimension. It's the archetypal Cure record, in the sense that it was the first record where they kind of found their sound. It has a kind of empty, parched, ghostly quality to it, partly because of obviously his voice, but also because of the sparseness of the production, the way the drums have got that very kind of dry, arid quality. There's no reverb on this album, so it has this very spectral quality to it, and the songs are just so good. I mean, A Forest, obviously a lot of people will know A Forest as one of the Cure's, sort of most famous songs, which is on this record. But everything, Play for Today, In Your House is one of my first ever bands. I was in a band when I was 12 called Amber Dawn, and we used to do a cover of In Your House. Can you believe it? So anyway, what do you feel about this record, Tim?
It sounds of its time and out of its time, and the cover beautifully evokes that kind of hazy sense of mystery that envelops it. And there is a real sense of kind of loneliness, isolation. And as you say, I'd bought the previous Cure album, and it had a couple of good songs, but it was a band finding its identity. It was a band still, in some ways, they were a curious band, because you could hear that they were coming out of that quite burnished late 1970s post-punk. There's a certain aspect of wire to their early sound. There's a certain aspect of conventional punk, but also that more spectral element is being introduced on certain tracks. I think it's 10:15 on a Saturday night, is it, from the first album? Which hints at where 17 Seconds is going to go completely. And A Forest was, it was a very haunting single that certainly a certain time of my life I played a lot, and the album was almost a beautiful album length investigation into that emotional and sonic state. It's got a consistency of sound, hasn't it? It's very short. Absolutely. It's a short record, and it's 35-40 minutes long. It maintains that atmosphere from beginning to end. Now, I know, because we talked about this before, we sometimes like albums like that. We love, I love albums that are diverse. I love albums that are all over the place. I mean, one of the things you could say about whatever I said about it, one thing you can say about the McCartney 2 album is that no track is like any other track on that record. I mean, it's just complete. Totally, it's all over the shop. But this album is an example of an album that is completely consistent from beginning to end in tone and atmosphere. One of the things is that, and I've still got some of these old Melody Makers and Enemies and sounds, is that the Cure were one of those bands. There were a few artists, late 70s, early 80s, that the press didn't quite trust, because they felt that they were reconfigured prog rock bands or reconfigured classic rock bands. So they would quite often be, because you may not have bought the press at that point, there were quite a lot of quite negative articles with connotations that actually they were older frauds trying to get in on the new scene.